Hello, welcome back to the Horseflies and Hand Grenades podcast. I'm joined here by Caleb and Chris. I'm Anthony. I want to be your host for today. Today, the topic is immortality. Very simple. If you could not die by any means, not killing yourself, not biologically, would you take the offer of immortality? I would say you feel them, like you would get hungry, get thirsty, but you can't die from dehydration, you can't die from starvation. So if you were, let's just say, locked up in a jail, they could just have you sit there. They wouldn't have to feed you, wouldn't have to uh, give you water. You would just sit there and essentially just feel constant thirst and hunger. Yes. Yes, essentially. I would say no, just plainly you can't get wounded at all. Yeah, essentially. I would say that the child would have a longer lifespan, but since they're still technically part mortal, they wouldn't be able to live forever. I don't think you would have access to that information, but I'm sure that if you were offered the uh, chance to become immortal, there would be someone else that would eventually have that in your infinite lifetime. All right. What about you, Caleb? Well, see, personally, I look at it more as, and this is a little bit weird because most people don't look at that. I look at it more as as a sacrifice. So you are sacrificing your mortal life and it being eventually able to end in order to do potentially great things in the world. I mean, personally, I think that if I would have to say yes, actually, I'd be willing to do that. You would be able to have the collective knowledge of nearly everything on Earth and then use that to advance society as a whole. It's just, I'm really seeing. What do you mean by that? I mean, I could understand that being like a wise man. I mean, I definitely think that that would be a good thing to do, but I always look at it kind of like personally, if I did that, I would dedicate my entire life to knowledge. I mean, just learning as much as I could as quickly as possible, just because I will be there forever. Well, of course, but I mean, think of someone who is, 80 years old. They've lived a long life, they've had a lot of experiences, and they've learned a lot. I mean, obviously, they've forgotten stuff over time and stuff like that, but if you were to continually train your memory and stuff like that, you could essentially just be a cache of knowledge. Maybe be the keeper of a library or something like that, and just continually learn and understand stuff. So you may be able to apply a couple things you didn't know that a normal person couldn't reasonably learn in their lifetime. Well, I mean, of course, I definitely think that that's something that you have to consider, but imagine if humans were to completely destroy themselves. I mean, you could essentially maybe rebuild a better world. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I that's personally, even in my life right now, I think knowledge is probably the thing that I want to pursue most in life. I mean, yes, I want to live my life, get married, have children, all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, I want to learn as much as I possibly can. So I may be able to pass that knowledge down to people since people are pretty dumb. They really are. So I just think that being able to learn stuff would help us in ways since everyone today is so specialized in certain stuff. I think it's better to have a broad range of knowledge and to be specified in one thing. So if I was able to be immortal and continually live, I would be able to be I'd able to specialize in things and also still be able to relate that to a broad range of knowledge that I'd be able to collect over centuries and even millennia. I definitely think that's true, but I think it comes down to a question of selfishness to selflessness. I think what you're describing is, in my opinion, pretty selfish, spending that immortality time to essentially do whatever you want. But I think a more selfless approach would to be to use that to better the functionality of the human race and lead them cut that and lead that to a and lead and lead that into a better world for people to I mean, I think everyone would really want to be able to go to space and stuff like that, and I think we're pretty close to that. But I, yeah, I mean, you could be. I think as far as knowledge, there's two different things. You could either be book smart and understand what we already know now and just be able to apply it to a general term, or be an explorer and understand the physical world that we live in. Yeah. I definitely understand that, but it's just you definitely shouldn't spend all your time doing stuff that people would never get the chance to do just because you have no consequences of that happening to you. And there is obviously still danger about it, even though you're immortal. Let's say you were hiking up a mountain and you get under a rock slide or something like that. You're not trapped under there mostly. I mean, eventually you'll get out through just some way or reason, but it's going to be difficult and you have to live with those consequences. Okay, well, let's go into another section of this. Let's say that you are immortal, but you are still able to end your own life if you feel you need to. What would you guys say then? Only you could end your own life, nothing else. Yeah, let's say that you just for all intents and purposes, you gain immortality through some magical means like a genie or something like that. You could simply decide that you no longer feel the need to live, and you would simply die. No attached strings or anything like that. Just you would die. Let's just assume for all the immortality questions, you also have immortal youth. All right, because if not, we're gonna go into a whole Greek thing. Gonna go into a whole Greek thing where you turn into a cricket. So yes, I'd probably say no. Honestly, I'd probably go straight into it. I mean, right now, a lot of the things that we do is because we have a short lifespan, relatively in the grand scheme of things. And I think if you have immortality to wait, you could eventually just decide to reintroduce yourself back into society and say just that you would like to make those connections again and stuff like that. Probably not, honestly. Eventually, it would get kind of boring. So, and I think that's why, I mean, philosophers and stuff like that say that the greatest gift of life is that it is fleeting. So, you have connections that you made throughout your life that give it meaning, but when you have infinity on the horizon, I mean, they don't really have much meaning. So it's going to be up to you. And I think that's why I was talking about it more of as a sacrifice, because you don't get the same enjoyment out of life as a normal person would be. Okay. Now, let's say that instead of just being able to kill yourself, you also took physical damage, I guess. You would still be able to get hurt and stuff like that. It would just heal at a quicker rate. Uh, Wolverine-esque kind of healing, where you would still feel the pain, you would still understand everything like about it, but you just simply would never be able to die from your injuries. What would you guys say to that? Yes, that would be that'd be a disappointing way to end your immortality. Now, another thing, you are immortal. You have access to the world's knowledge and ability to essentially do near whatever you want. Would you use that to seize power in some form of government or leadership role? Well, see, and then you also have to think of the fact of, let's say you're in a position of power, like a world leader. You're the leader of the United Nations, only they are more of the Senate to you, where they're representatives from their countries, and you make all the final executive decisions. You, all of your time now, for the most part, would be spent on doing this. You wouldn't be able to really pursue knowledge and stuff like that. It would be spent mostly on, understanding the correct way to deal with situations in the world. So you'd be giving up part of it to be able to lead these people. It's kind of a catch 22. Would you guys still do it knowing that? Step down? Now, would you rather have it set up as a government, like a situation of UNs or something like that, or would you rather have it as a economic control? Well, I'm not saying like a lot of money, but I mean it's arguable at this point that corporations have more power than actual voters and stuff like that. So, would you rather seize control through means of, just for example, let's use the United States. Would you rather seize control by being the president, or would you rather seize control by being Google, which has its stake in everything and can pretty much do whatever it wants because it's way too big to fail at this point? All right. In that case, why don't we switch the kind of topic over to, you are not the only one that is immortal. You know that there are other immortal beings out there that you are able to relate to and able to speak with about this matter. Yes, I think that's going to be I think that's going to be a personal thing for you. I mean, obviously, you guys just said that you would seize power. So obviously, if there are other immortal beings out there, they've clearly thought about this and are most likely trying to do the same thing. So you could either do this diplomatically and speak to them as if you would like to seize power together and control the world through an oligarchy, or if they may be competing. I think it depends on the personality of who it's going to be and your personal personality. Okay. Now on the flip side of that, instead of people already existing that are immortal, what if you were able to create someone who was immortal? Let's say a offspring, or simply just you would allow them to give the blessing of immortality. I would say yes. Yeah, they do. And I think this definitely opens up, like, especially with what you said, Caleb, it opens up a big problem with the way that humans are naturally, and that is frankly distrusting. I mean, you're always gonna assume that you can do something better than someone else can, especially given an unlimited amount of resources, basically. So being able to have and give immortality is a difficult choice for most people. I mean, even with people in a position of power that aren't immortal right now, I mean, they're not going to want to give that power away. So that kind of situation is going to be how much power are you willing to lend to someone else? Um, all right. Let's just say that it's just random. You got it through blind luck. All right. Well, let's change the kind of terms of the immortality rather than yeah. Go ahead. I mean, that's an interesting thought, and I feel like it would just lead to a single person who's too greedy taking power. I mean, look at something like the Russian Revolution, where there was just execution of high leaders simply because someone else wanted to be power, just wanted to have power. So I think it would just lead to a situation like that, where the entire world would be under totalitarian government. Yeah, but uh, changing gears from that, let's change the terms of immortality. You still live a mortal life, but it is kind of like a reincarnation kind of situation where you have all past memories of what you have done in your previous lives and stuff like that, but you're still bounded by your mortality and you just die and then come back as a baby and child. Would you accept that offer? Um, I think it would depend on how intelligent life out in the universe. I think it would depend on whether there's intelligent life out in the universe or um, just if there's bacteria surviving. You may simply just come back as a pseudopod or something like that and just watch as the Earth or another planet gets intelligent life and eventually is able to establish a society. Or you would maybe you would transfer over to another planet um, full of a different population and different species. Now, now, would you actively change how you try to live to get new experiences, or would you attempt to live in a similar way? Let's just say that. Let's just go with the whole keeper of knowledge situation. Um, you get to a age where you're legally allowed to leave your parents, you're able to do your own thing. Um, would you go back to wherever you held all that knowledge and just continue to expand it every single lifetime, or would you try to go as just trying to live as many lives as possible, learning as you go? Yeah, and now, as kind of stupid as it sounds, I mean, there's been a lot of throughout history. There's been a lot of god kings and reincarnation and stuff like that. Would you almost have other people view you as a deity or a god that just simply lives forever? Well, let's say, for example, I mean, let's go to Egypt. I mean, according to Egypt, every single pharaoh was essentially the god. So they were able to seize total power over their nation and government by doing that. We could go to the Catholic Church and see how the Pope, I mean, a lot of incredibly religious nations, especially back during the Holy Wars and stuff like that, they seized power and they were really the ones running the government. Of course, they had to go through, Roman emperors and just various things like that, but they were really the ones that made the final decisions. So you would be able to use that to your advantage and seize control of the world by being living proof that there is a God that, well, a God that exists, if you would like to take it to yourself or whoever gave it to you, something that clearly is supernatural and doesn't have the same abilities as humans. So, would you do that and essentially take control of the planet using a religion over a economic or political standpoint? You bring up Mistborn one more time, I swear to God. Not sponsored. Yeah, I think we need to cut all of that out. Oh, all right, all right. Okay. Let's get back on topic. And personally, I'm a big fan of the keeper of knowledge kind of situation. What do you guys think of that? I mean, I think Caleb said you would do something similar, and uh, Chris, would you do something similar? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, you have infinity. So, what would you guys do first with your time? Uh, Chris, how about you first? Let's say it's past your normal lifespan. It's about 100 years in the future from when you first received your gift of immortality. What would you start now that most of the people that you've known have died? The world's progressed on a little bit. What would be your first action as an immortal being? What about you, Caleb? Like, I know you were saying about the guitar, but realistically, what would you do? What is the first thing you would do? Like, for example, skydiving, like skydiving without a parachute, just to see what would happen. Okay. Um, Now, personally, what I would do is the first thing that I would do after I became immortal, because I wouldn't have. I personally don't think I'd have much interest living out my remaining life, but I think I would try to learn as many languages as I could, because I mean, just being able to learn that, being able to communicate with people is going to give you a step to understanding humanity as a whole. Now, let's say that you are immortal, uh, not so much worried about the conditions. Would you tell anyone? Oh yeah, yeah, and I mean, personally, I think I would try to avoid telling as many people as possible. I'm with Caleb on the whole boat of just not telling people. Um, Now, like you said, eventually people are going to find out. I mean, how many different theories are there around that certain people are immortal, like Keanu Reeves or something like that? Uh, Now, let's move away maybe from the theoretical stuff of what you would do if you were immortal. And do you personally think that anyone today could potentially be immortal? With just without us knowing? All right. Okay. I respect your opinion, even though it's wrong. Um, okay. Now, let's say that you forego your human body. Let's say you upload your brain and mind into a consciousness that could not be deleted, not necessarily technologically, but maybe into an object or something like that, that allows you to live out a human life in something similar, but it's not exactly human. For example, a, a homunculus or something like that, something that's artificially created, and it wouldn't age or anything like that. So you could set the limitations of it, but it would still have your mind and memory and would live forever. It's instead of the whole genie or divine thing, it is more scientifically and mechanically made. I I think that would depend on what you would do. Let's say if you're doing a robot or something like that, you could people could read and write you. I mean, you're essentially just programming. But if you were something more biologically immortal, like the old alchemic homunculi and stuff like that, I would say no. I mean, you're essentially just a being that cannot live or die, and you have just, let's say, increased strength, increased memory, and intelligence, stuff like that, just simply because you cannot die and you're just a biologically superior being to humans. Well, uh, the goal of ancient alchemy, I mean, originating back in like the 15th and 16th century, they believed that it was science, but they believed that science was a gateway into divinity and magic and stuff like that. Um, a homunculi was essentially a artificial creature that was created not through natural procreation or life, but simply through the elements that were working together to create life. I mean, in the uh, anime Full Metal Alchemist, the father was a homunculus, which was a artificial created creature that eventually killed people and was able to absorb their souls to become immortal. This goes back to the Philosopher's Stone, which is what alchemists believe was the final step into making life. And a homunculus is just simply a biological creature that was given artificial life and is, by extension, immortal since it doesn't have a mortal soul. Now, this is contrasted by a artificial mechanical life, using programming and machine learning and stuff like that that's already been started in the world. And that would lead to different pitfalls to a biological thing. For example, being able to change the code, being able to change how it processes things. So, which one would you guys personally like to do? Well, you have a robotic and electronic immortality, through the use of robots, or I guess a better way to speak it is simply like the synthetics from Fallout 4 or the other Fallout games, um, or you have a biological immortality where you don't technically have a soul or anything like that. So you can't die. Obviously, you would still be able to take physical damage and stuff like that. So it's more of you're looking at more of a mental pitfall where your coding can be changed, your way you process things can be changed, or a physical pitfall where you still have a physical body and that could be injured and various stuff like that. Now, obviously, you would be able to create another vessel for you to go into, but it would take time. It would take various things. It would take a lot of work and energy. So it's a physical versus a mental pitfall. Which, if you had to have a weakness when it comes to immortality, would you rather have it be physical or mental? All right. I would probably go for the physical pitfall. I mean, I'm definitely in Caleb with that kind of boat. Just the fear of someone else being able to personally change how I think or use this knowledge and collection for something that I am physically unable to stop is just something that I wouldn't want to take the chance of. I think I'd rather have a larger chance of my immortality physically ending than being used for something that I wouldn't support. Now, let's talk about immortality in the real world right now. I mean, with genetics being researched, being able to genetically alter people through CRISPR, and then sentient AI already starting to be talked about in the UN as far as rights and stuff like that. Where do you guys see immortality really starting to come into an actual factor of happening in the real world right now? Now, now, what about you, Caleb? What do you think is the first step that humanity is really going to take towards immortality? All right. Okay, well, that's something that I think I need to put a little more thought into. We'll come back to that in a second. Sully actually raised a good point about the brains. Let's say that it is a nanobot technology or even a digital technology. If you were to upload your brain or have your brain be cybernetically enhanced, are you still really you? Oh, of course it is. I want to know your thoughts. Yeah, so we'll definitely come back to that. All right, so yeah, just yeah, so we'll just edit that part out. Okay, so Caleb, on your whole idea of are you still really you if your consciousness is uploaded or changed, cybernetically enhanced, or something like that? What do you think? Are you still really you, Caleb? Yeah. Why? No, no, no. I mean, as far as mentally, are you still the same person as you are? All right. Um, I had another question. Give me a second. Fuck, I forgot what it was. What did you say, Chris? The whole "Are you still the same person?" That's a fair enough point. All right, so we're gonna cut out that part where I fucking forgot what the question was because I just remembered it. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's just easier to call it out. Okay, so let's say that you there was a movie a while back. I can't quite remember the name of it, where the rich and powerful were able to live forever, but in exchange they transfer their consciousness into a younger person. Now that person would die. There's no way around it. They would die, you would take over their body. Would you still be willing to be immortal if that was the case? They are still living and aware when the transfer occurs. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Let's say that. And you're thinking of Black Museum. Um, Now, also, let's talk about it like that. If we're going to the more digital sense, if you were to upload a consciousness and you were to take the back seat in someone's life, would you be willing to do it? Yeah, you are essentially a second consciousness in their head. See, and I think this definitely raises the whole idea of humanity's fear of death. I mean, it's actually pretty interesting the fact that you guys wouldn't take immortality if it was unconditional, no way to kill yourself, you would live forever. But if you were able to kill yourself, you would take it. However, if you were offered immortality as a backseat of someone or something like that, or digitally enhance it, you guys would still take it. So, what are your thoughts on that? All right. Well, yeah, I definitely think that's an interesting thing. That would be interesting to have a podcast about it. Yeah, it depends on what it is. Horseflies and hand grenades. We find out one of our members has DI, dissociative identity disorder. That's a joke. That's a joke. It's a joke. Okay, well, why don't we kind of get back on topic of the question of immortality? Now we've talked about mechanical immortality, we've talked about biological immortality. What about spiritual immortality? Let's say you die, but you're able to live on through a spirit or a soul that simply wanders the earth, but you're not able to communicate with other people or anything like that. What would you guys do then? What is it? I'm gonna say no. No. You have to stay within the moral confines of a person. Like, let's say there was a spaceship or something that was going to another planet. I would say yes, you would be able to get on that and go there, but you can't just go there whenever. You know what I mean? No, you are essentially just a person that is shifted. You can't interact with anything in the physical world. You can't do anything like that. Um, but it's still there. It's still solid. You can't do anything spectacular. You don't have any powers or anything like that. It's just you're an observer. You're nothing else. Yes, yeah. Like they can interact and move through you, but you're not able to move through objects. You know what I mean? No. Uh, I mean, eventually with enough time, I assume you would, but what do you mean? You are a spirit. You can't interact with anything in the world, or any person. Solid materials you still can't pass through or anything like that. You have no special abilities. People are able to walk through you. You are simply just an observer on the world. Yeah, yeah, yes. Now, you guys would also not be able to. You would see mistakes happening or terrible things happening. You couldn't do anything about it. Would you still be okay with that? Well, I mean, it's one thing to see it through a screen or something like that, but actually being there, watching it happen. Let's say you're walking down the streets of a large city and you see someone get mugged and shot. I mean, that happens in front of you. There's nothing you can do. Would you still be willing to do it? Yeah, I think that, personally, I don't think I'd be able to do that. That I wouldn't be able to deal with that kind of tragedy. I mean, obviously, you would eventually get desensitized. Yeah, eventually you'd become desensitized to it, but it's just you just wouldn't be able to see. Like you'd be able to see good things and bad things, but it's just kind of a weird in between where you can't do anything about anything. Well, yeah, but I mean, this is gonna be happening forever. Okay, so that's a little over an hour. You guys want to call it here? All right. Yeah, we definitely could. No, 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 no. I'm doing it. Fuck you. Um. All right. Okay. Thanks for listening to this podcast on the topic of immortality. I think we definitely got a lot of discussion points out of here and understand basically where everyone's feeling. Um, I want to know what you guys think. If you could put it down in the comments below or just a comment on this podcast, I think it'd be interesting to read through that and look to see what you guys think. Is this Do not put that in the video. Do not put that in the video. So do you want to just go for the top on the outro or wait a minute, but where are the two lists? God damn it. This man over here, he's straight, but he's actually bisexual. He just refuses to admit it. Yes, yeah, you want me to do it? Start from the beginning? Okay, guys, thanks for listening to Horseflies and Hand Grenades. This has been on the topic of immortality, which is something that I'm sure a lot of people have thought of. I think we definitely got a lot of good discussion points out of here and kind of a stance of where everyone is. What do you guys think? I'd like to hear what your opinion is down in the comments below. Um, if you have any other topics for us to talk about, I'd love to hear them. We are willing to talk about pretty much anything. My name's Anthony, and you guys have a good day. Shut the fuck up about game ranks, Caleb.